guys, and welcome to an episode of Cat Theories, where I discuss Stranger Things, particularly things that I think might happen in future seasons. So, if you haven't seen seasons 1 and 2 of Stranger Things, please go back and watch it, because there will be a lot of spoilers, and so yeah, that's pretty much it. So, like, for example, one spoiler is the Demogorgon dies. Wait, that was season 1. So if you haven't seen season 1, then sorry for that spoiler. Go watch it. Seriously, just go watch. Just even if you haven't seen Stranger Things, go see Stranger Things. And if you have, go watch it again. Because you might pick up on things that I didn't. Okay, so this video is mainly going to be theories, things that I think may or may not happen in future seasons. So I talked to someone, and one of the things that they pointed out was that they were hoping that they weren't going to do like the superhero route for Callie and 11. And I can kind of understand that. I can kind of understand them not wanting to do the whole superhero route where it's, I guess like the premise of X-Men would be my thing. Like them not doing that. That's what would be like my hope as well. So one of the things that I think, keyword I think, that they might go is the Firestarter route. And if you're familiar with Stephen King's either the movie or the book Firestarter, you'll roughly understand what I mean by that. But essentially what I'm hoping is that they how to explain this, because it's I want them to explore. I would love for them to explore more of the history of MK Ultra, and you know, we all know that it was a real thing. Not much information is known about it, but in the premise of the Stranger Things story and plotline, you know, what was the reasoning for this aside from testing and stuff? You know, what was ultimately their end goal? And I know some people are going to say, well, it's weapons. You know, they wanted to use 11 as a weapon. They more likely wanted to use Callie as a weapon. And you know, that's all well and good, but to me it seems that has been done. And I also think that the people going into MK Ultra weren't doing this to create people with powers. You know, that was just a happy accident that they now get to work into whatever their original plans were. And so my other thing is with Firestarter, I noticed some similarities between Stranger Things and Firestarter. Both people, you know, both groups got their abilities from government testing with psychedelic drugs. The people with powers bleed from their nose if they use their powers. For example, 11, Charlie's dad in Firestarter, Andy, when he uses his power, you know, blood comes out of he gets a nosebleed, and things like that. So and of course in season 1 you have it's not the shop, because that's Firestarter. You have the bad men wanting to get 11 back to the facility so that she can be trained as a weapon. And then in place of the farmers who tried to help Charlie and her father in Firestarter, you have Mike and his friends trying to help 11 not be captured again by the bad men. And in season 2 you have Hopper, who takes 11 in and, you know, tries to raise 11 as his kid, which can be difficult when 11 didn't grow up in a loving environment, you know, in an actual family environment. You know, for 11, there is a scene where Hopper grounds Elle because she had broken one of the rules, and 11 didn't take it well, and she compared Hopper to Papa, and you know, and of course Hopper got really pissed off about it because he didn't see any correlation between him and her so-called Papa. And you know, for 11 at least, she only has the events of her past, you know, her events at the facility to fall back on. You know, she doesn't know how to react, or doesn't really know things, you know, like being grounded. She might have a vague concept based on, you know, Hawkins, but it might not be a very good comparison for her to have. You know, she doesn't know that, you know, I think she knows that there are consequences to actions, but I think for her, the consequences for her actions were always so severe. So I think part of her reaction to finding out that she was grounded might have been fear. You know, she probably didn't understand to an extent what Hopper meant. You know, he wasn't actually trying to hurt her. He was just trying to, you know, like most parents, you know, when you're grounded, you take away the thing that, you know your kid enjoys, so that hopefully the message will stick. And I think that's sort of what Hopper was trying to do here. But what he probably should have done, he probably should have explained to Elle, you know, without raising his voice or anything, because I think that's also, you know, might have been part of it, for Elle at least. You know, probably when he took Elle in, you know, explain to her what grounding is, what it means, and, you know, just explain the concept of it to her, so that when she does eventually get grounded, she's not going into it thinking that it's going to have some repeats of her time at Hawkins. But that really isn't a theory, that's just a thought. So another thing, 11 and 8, or Elle and Kali. I did mention Kali earlier. For those of you who don't know, who have not seen season 2, go watch it. Kali is number 8 on the, we're just calling them Psychic Kids, on the Psychic Kids roster. At this moment in time, we don't know how many kids there are. I would have to garner a guess that there are at least up to 11 kids, if not possibly more. This leads me to believe that there is probably more than one Hawkins, or, you know, Hawkins-like facility, either in the country or around the world. Probably just in the US. So that sort of, to me, means that they had multiple facilities, multiple tests being done on a bunch of people, and, you know, their kids may or may not have powers. So if that is the case, if you have these kids with powers, where are they? You know, where did they end up? And I do kind of hope that they do bring in some of those kids, just to sort of, you know, expound on how large, you know, how wide the Hawkins test went. There's a lot of possibilities for that, at least for the most part, especially since the gate is closed. Elle closed the gate at the end of season 2. So without the gate open, there really isn't anything coming in from the upside down. Shadow Man Mind Flare that was in Will is gone. Burn him out. So Will's fine. He's fine. He'll live. So there's that. But I'm also, you know, again, I'm hoping they don't do the superhero thing. And I don't think really Kali is either. She's doing her whole thing for revenge. And I want to say that they showed Kali not only to introduce her as a character and introduce the concept of there being more kids with psychic powers, and more kids who, of course, would have been tested on. I believe they introduced Kali as a way to show an alternative. You know, this is what Elle's life possibly could have ended up. You know, this is how, you know, this is the road Elle could have gone. She also served as a turning point for Elle. You know, Elle had to make a choice. Did Elle want to go and kill everyone that had been part of Hawkins, or was she going to choose the life that she found with Hopper, with Mike, with Joyce, you know, with everyone else? You know, was she going to choose essentially her family? And she did. You know, she realized that they needed her there because the events that were going on in the Upside Down, and with Will and, you know, Mike and Joyce and everything else and all that was going on. So there's that. So I'm hoping, well, it's not really a hope, I guess, but I'm hoping that they do bring in more of these kids with psychic abilities, because it would be interesting to see, one, what all abilities do they have, and two, do they use different drugs? Depending on the drug that each parent essentially was introduced to, and the experiments that were done when they had those drugs in their systems, does that correlate to the powers that either they or their kids got? Or was it just like a blind bag, you put your hand in, pull it out, it's like, oh look, you have telekinesis, whoop-de-doo. Or was it like that? So that would be interesting to see if that was a thing, if that happened. But that might be a bit difficult. I don't know, maybe. I don't know. I'm literally just throwing things out here, guys. So there's that. There is also the theory that I have concerning the Upside Down and 11, the fact that they are, the way they are connected, and the fact that each psychic kid might not be able necessarily to get to the Upside Down or open gates to the Upside Down. And that is because I think, my theory is that each kid is connected to a certain parallel universe that in a sense reflects them or their upbringing. And we mainly know the Upside Down and 11, so I'm going to use that. So 11 grew up dark, she spent a lot of time in the dark, so she spent a lot of her time in the cold, dark, cold, and she probably has a lot of negative emotions that she doesn't really know how to communicate well, or have a healthy outlet for, aside from destroying everything in sight or killing people. Which, we know that she doesn't really want to do, but, it happens. So, what did we mention? We mentioned dark, cold, anger, and killing, which sort of sounds like the Upside Down in a sense. You have, the entire environment was dark, cold. The shadow creature loved the cold. Woo! He was like, he didn't want Will to get warm at all. He likes the cold. So dark, cold, probably angry, and the creatures in there kill. They feed on whatever meat they can find, and if it's human. That's why I think that they're connected in the sense that Elle isn't so much the door to the Upside Down, she is the lock and key. And the only reason why the gate, of course, opened in the first place was because Elle had managed to make contact with one of the creatures in that particular parallel world. And of course, making the first contact, initial contact, was what opened the Upside Down. So I'm thinking that because Elle has already opened and closed the gate once, that she might be able to open and close the gate again as she needs to. That might be something that she would be able to do. So say for example, something was chasing them and her and her friends, and they needed a quick escape, there was no way out. So Elle could open a door to the Upside Down, get her and her friends through, close it from the Upside Down side, and then get to a safer location, open up a new gate from the Upside Down to get back to our world. So that's that theory. So essentially what I'm thinking is, if that's the case, that each psychic kid is connected, again, to a parallel world that reflects them. But Elle is the only one who has been able to open that door because she is the only one that has made contact to or with someone or something from that parallel world. So whether or not the other parallel worlds are going to be like the Upside Down, and the fact that they are a replica of whatever the location is, and that might be it. Each parallel world might be a replica of an area that each kid knows or had known. For example, for Upside Down, the only place we saw was Hawkins' lab and Hawkins town in general. So it might be limited to a certain radius, until Elle goes out of Hawkins and opens up a second portal to the Upside Down. We'll be able to see, will the parameters of the Upside Down, will it extend beyond the boundaries of Hawkins? So there is, there's that something for people to chew on. And that's something else that they could possibly explore in future seasons. And I know I mentioned him quite a few times, but Will was the only person, essentially, aside from Hopper and Joyce, the only person who spent an extended amount of time in the Upside Down, and who was also the host for the Mind Flayer. So, and, no one at this point knows why. Why Will? Why was he the one who apparently has these connections to the Upside Down without being part of any of the experiments that Elle and her mother were a part of? So I'm guessing that a side effect of being in the Upside Down made Will and his body, I guess, primed as a host. And I'm thinking that when the Upside Down finally caught up to Will, it realized instead of eating Will, because he has had such a prolonged exposure to the Upside Down, he probably carries trace elements of the Upside Down in his system. We need to bump up these trace elements to allow for a host to exist, to extend the Upside Down into the world through the gate. So that's what I'm thinking that might be. And I'm also thinking that the creatures, the Demogorgon was probably a scout. He was probably a scout sent out by the Mind Flayer, to figure out the boundaries of this, of our world, the weapons, things like that. So that was probably it. And I just thought of this, but he probably got information. The Mind Flayer probably got information based on what they ate. As horrible as that thought is, because they can't see, all their senses are probably inside of them. They probably go on some sort of sense of smell at least. So that's how blood and such. So there's that. So again, because Will probably was primed to be a host, when Will came back because of the increased elements of whatever makes the Upside Down in Will's system, that's probably what caused him to be able to switch back and forth, and that also gave the Mind Flayer a way in. Will was the Mind Flayer's way in, because the Mind Flayer probably could not exist in our world without a host. Will was that host. He probably needed a more, something whose temperature he could at least control, and who would be inconspicuous. Evil shadow thing. Sounds pretty evil. Tiny child. Not so much. So that's probably what that was going with. And because Will has had these things happen to him, I'm thinking that Will will probably have at least some minor connection to the other parallel worlds that the other psychic kids are connected to. Because my own theory is that there's a possibility that the Upside Down and the other parallel worlds are some way connected. There's probably some parts of each parallel world that of course interlap, like the Upside Down and our world. And that's what I have for that guy, that portion. So let me check my notes real quick. So again, those are things that I sort of hope they might delve into in the future seasons of Stranger Things, since because the gate to the Upside Down has been closed. Again, I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know where they're gonna go with this series. If they did sort of like a mashup of like the concept of Firestarter, maybe not the movie because apparently the movie was bad, but like the concept of what they had going with Firestarter, and maybe a bit of the superhero thing, sort of mash them together. But again, this is like 80s, set in the 80s, so I highly doubt that would be the case. Maybe. I do remember that there were some references to the X-Men, I believe, in Stranger Things. So one of the things that they could probably have an episode of is the kids using, their knowledge of superheroes, of D&D like they've done to explain the Demogorgon, the Mind Flayer, things like that. Essentially use their nerd knowledge to help Elle and potentially the other psychic kids, learn how to control their powers so that they aren't hunted down and used for any more experiments. And I just remember this, but speaking of experiments, I just thought of a final theory. Oh my god. Okay, so one of the routes they could go is that, since we don't know the ages. We don't know the ages of any of these kids. We know that Elle is more likely 11 or 12. Kali, I'm thinking is like maybe mid or late teens at least. So you have those two. So it could be that there are some kids, I call them kids, you know, some kids with psychic abilities that are older, and it could be that they stayed in their programs and facilities for way longer. So what could happen is that you have these, you know, these kids that are completely and utterly brainwashed to do whatever the facility tells them to. And it could have been like a rat race for each facility. You know, I'm gonna have the kid with the best powers, and they're gonna do everything I say, and only some of them succeeded. So there's that. But you could have these other facilities finding out about Elle and about Kali and deciding to send their own psychic kids. Say, okay, we're gonna test you. Go find these two and, you know, try to assure them. So that's something else that they could do in a sense. So, which does draw back to the Firestarter Rekindled series, miniseries that happened. I didn't actually watch it. I just read a synopsis of it on the internet. So, you know, again, you know, there are options, but some of those options have been done before. But I think Stranger Things does them in a new and better way. So yeah, so that's I'll say that's all I got. That's all I got. And I know I sort of rambled, but to top it all off, to sort of bring this around, to review what we said, I'm hoping that they delve into the history of MK Ultra, how many other kids were there, what happened to them, how many facilities, are there multiple parallel worlds, is there a parallel world for each kid, things like that. So that's sort of what I'm hoping with. And again, you know, that's it. That's all I got. And if you like this, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe and comment. Comment what your theories are for Stranger Things. You know, where do you think they're gonna go? Did any of my theories sound interesting to you? Did you like them? Did you hate them? Do you think I'm completely bonkers for making those connections? So yeah, that's it. And I'm going to now eat this waffle that's been sitting on my plate for the past while, and I need food. Bye. So I keep glancing over and my notes are like right here, so I have to keep blah 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 blah. So there do, let's continue on, and yes, these are Legos.